TheorySabers.com.
And the thing that is most shocking to me is about your interview with the original writer of the Obi-Wan trilogy.
Stuart,
Stuart. He had to go to Lucasfilm to say, hey, there's interest in this Kenobi project. And that's the thing that shocked me the most listening to your interview, was that they didn't have their ear to the ground seemingly at all. I don't know if that thought went through your head at all when you were talking to
absolutely.
him.
Him and I talked a little bit afterwards, and that there's a lot more I know about the story that anyways, I don't know, man. I don't know what goes through their heads. I really, like, are they trying to burn everything into the ground? Or, I mean, especially when you get a script like that for 3 movies that I think everybody would agree would have been much better than the slop that they gave us with the Kenobi show, which cost $90 million. And now that we see the Acolyte, the Shitalite was $230 million. I mean, what the freak? That's 3 times, almost 3 times the amount that Kenobi was. And that means they literally could have done, if the Kenobi show was 1 movie and each movie was going to be 90 million, that essentially means that the Acolyte got the budget of 3 of the Kenobi movies.
I had that thought too, which is insane, especially because Obi-Wan is an established character and an established, property. He's like a sub property, but to go in this entirely new direction, and to throw this much money into a part of the lore that fans maybe don't want to see all that much is just so shocking.
I know. It's quite disheartening. I truly wonder who is helming all of these decisions, and are they of sound mind? Are they okay? Because this is weird. How do you take that script and just, first of all, give us that shit, and then second of all, then give us the Acolyte and spend 3 times the budget on that junk, and then like, people want to, even with that garbage script of the Kenobi, people want to see another season because it's Kenobi. It's freaking Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. It's Darth Vader. Even with what Joby Harold and Deborah Chow did, which shat all over it, and shat all over Stuart Beattie's script, they still want to see more, let alone the Acolyte, which they wanted to make another season for whatever reason, but it didn't have enough viewership, and therefore they're like, we can't afford to do this crap again. Which means that they couldn't even make that junk for like the same price as the Kenobi show for 90 million and still be profitable, which tells you a lot. Coming in at the worst rated Star Wars show in history in terms of the finale, which is documented. I mean, that's
the most
that says a lot. The most expensive and the worst rated in terms of viewership. That's wild.
That is insanely wild. Like, the downfall is going to be studied for decades. How do you have such a popular established IP and just diminish its value so severely in record time?
I know.
The thing that you were talking about with Stuart Beattie and everything was he was very open to doing a second season of Kenobi. And I feel, just as you did in the interview, very strongly of the fact that if they do another one, that he should be involved in some capacity.
Yeah, because I think he gets it and he understands these characters.
One of the things that I really loved was how he addressed Luke and Luke Skywalker's story. I don't know how you felt about Luke's inclusion in the Kenobi series. I found it to be sweet but unnecessary. But in this other script, in Stuart's script, Mr. Beattie's script, the way that he integrated Luke as an integral part of this wider moving story just fit so much more organically. And it's not a cameo if the character is integral to the plot and to the overarching story and the arc of the character involved, that being Obi-Wan. It does feel like a member berry when you have one scene at the end.
Yeah, I know.
Same with Qui-Gon.
I agree. Well, they just shoehorned Qui-Gon in, and seeing him was, of course, emotional because you hadn't seen him since you were 9, for me at least. But like, looking back, it's just like, fuck you guys. You guys don't really know even why you're putting him in there. First of all, you're not supposed to even see him. Second of all, it, why even interject him at the very end there like that? Like once he gets his powers, like okay, then now he can, because all of a sudden he can see Qui-Gon. It's like it's moving, but at the same time, like you're just doing a cheap trick. And I'm pissed because it's like these people didn't even understand Star Wars, nor did they understand Stuart Beattie's script, and they just want to throw in these key jangling, like Mahler says, and they just trying to pull on heartstrings to further the love that we have for this franchise and be like, oh, remember that guy? And pull on what George built to make their story seem better when it's not. And that's what bugs me about it.
Do you think that in the Lucasfilm office, they view Obi-Wan and greenlighting that show as an attempt to appease fans in an effort to move on to the next project that they actually care about?
It's quite possible, but what I think that they wanted to do even was maybe they wanted to take the Kenobi script and say, okay, let's, have a Kenobi show, but let's just focus on Reva for whatever reason. Let's just focus on this new character and more so about her journey and her struggles. And it's like, nobody fucking cares. No one gave a shit. And if anything, it just makes them hate the character. Like, they're not learning. Like, look what happened with Rey. Nobody hates Rey because she's a girl. And if you argue that, then, well, yeah, sure, there's those, whatever sexist people out there. They're like freaking 0.2%, okay? But the majority of people didn't like Rey, first of all, because it's a poorly written character, but also mainly because she shoehorned her way in to steal the spotlight from Luke and made him look like a dope. And so when we wanted to get more screen time of Luke, we were just getting Rey. When we wanted to get more screen time of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin and Vader, we were getting more Reva and then more little Leia. And it's like, nobody signed up for that. Nobody gives a shit about Reva. We want to see what we came for, which is the star of the show, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But they don't get this shit. They honestly, I don't know what goes through their heads, but they're going to understand soon with more suffering of these shows like The Acolyte and more money down the drain.
Yeah, they will.
So, maybe eventually they'll get it, but I don't know, man. Let me ask you, what do you think? They obviously have access to the right writers, like Stuart Beattie, for example. What do you think their reasoning is for going against that? Going against what they... Do you even think they recognize the fact that this is like a superior story?
I think,
do you think they're stupid, or do you think they play stupid?
I think that there are definitely people in that room that do. And all I can do is speculate. So I would only speculate that things like Star Wars and Marvel are sort of the pinnacle of entertainment, if you will. And I think that if you're going to get in that door, you either have one of two things. You have a brilliant idea or you have connections. And I think sometimes they're just picking people that have these connections and that they have, formed a relationship with over their career beforehand and ensured that their values align directly with their image of Star Wars, whatever that may be. Obviously, that changes from director to director. Yeah. I think that is far more important to the Disney corporate office than picking the right story to tell. It's become... The discourse about Star Wars has not become what is the right story to tell. It's become what story do I personally just with me want to tell. And if you're making your own movie, that's fine. That's great. But you're not making... I'm getting upset already. You're not making your own movie. You're making Star Wars. This is not yours. It may be Disney's on paper, but this is George Lucas's idea, and other writers who have remained, loyal to that vision and interacted with it and studying it, as Stuart Beattie clearly has with his familiarity with the character of Obi-Wan. I loved in the interview how he talked about how does this man go from the brave war general to the reluctant, survivor that has to pick up his weapon again, but is still hoping for adventure somehow. Like the little gleam in his eye still that he is truly a Jedi master now. He is truly enlightened. He has risen above, as he would put in Rebels. I know I went on a tangent, but I just love Obi-Wan so much, and I
Me too.
specifically love the time on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Uh, that's my favorite Obi-Wan era because he's been in power for so long, he's been influential for so long, and he's sort of relegated to something that he never thought that he would. And the galaxy around him has become something that he never thought that it would ever become. And he has to learn to accept that and to choose to, be better the next day.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like it's probably one of the most interesting story arcs because there's just so much there to get into,
So much.
and how Stuart Beattie weaved it all in together. I mean, it's I want to say more here, but it's it would have made Star Wars today so much more enjoyable, and I think exactly what a lot of us are missing in Star Wars today is because of Disney's fuck up. And I think that Stewart's 3 movies would have completely changed the game, and people would have been like as excited as they were with Revenge of the Sith, essentially,
Yeah, I think
and
so
brought
too.
brought that hope back. And he said this one thing that Lawrence Kasdan, who was the director of Empire Strikes Back, told him. What was which a lot of you saw in the interview was that Star Wars, when you leave the theater, it's utter delight. A Star Wars movie has to be delightful.